everybody, and welcome back to the Dry Pink Dialogue. Another 5 things we learned in the last week. Inter Miami gets a 2-2 draw against Austin FC. They opened the new stadium. It was the international break, and some transfer news. Saur, what is the first thing we learned in the last week?
Number one, the new stadium is awesome. It was a run against time. We were up against it, and we almost thought that this wasn't going to come through. But wow, the new stadium looks modern. It looks fantastic. Inter Miami's new era has officially begun at Miami Freedom Park. It looks great. What did you think?
It looks great. We obviously watched it on TV. The experience looks really good, but you don't know until you go. But I will just tell you, I was texting some people that were at the stadium as it was happening, and I got a lot of really positive feedback. Apparently, it was very loud. The noise trap is great. The environment was awesome. And you're right, it's not fully complete yet, but I think there's a complete experience already. And so if you can ratchet it up even higher, that's awesome. But like for this to be the sort of debut and it to be this awesome, I thought was good, and we're going to keep using the word awesome, but like in the poetic sense, it was great. It's a really cool environment, very cool stadium. Like I don't want to talk out of turn, but I think there's some people thinking this might be the best stadium in the MLS, and if Inter Miami and the fans can bring the environment, especially like I think the environment will improve. If I'm being totally honest, I think there was maybe some special guests that came to the first one, and that'll be replaced more and more by true fans that get to go as time goes on. I think the environment will get even better. So like I'm very excited about the stadium. I am very excited to go, and a little jealous we didn't get to go to the opening, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, and honestly, it's only 70% ready. The game experience is ready, but the outside post-match pre-game experience, I think they're still developing that. Once it's fully set, once Miami Freedom Park as a venue opens up properly, I think it's going to attract all the folks. The games are going to be fantastic. The post-game, pre-game, everything is going to be great. But more than that, I think this is Inter Miami's new home, and that's awesome, as you said. All right, what's number two?
Inter Miami knows who's going to be going to the World Cup, or at least who is eligible to go to the World Cup. Lionel Messi, we've long speculated, is going to be not just at the World Cup, but captaining the defending champions. Rodrigo de Paul, a little bit of a question mark on if he's going to make the Argentine roster, but I still feel very confident that he's going to make the team. Dane St. Clair, again, very confident he's going to make the Canadian national team. Those three are going to the World Cup. I feel very good about that. Germán Berterame is the last question mark because we're not sure if he's going to make the Mexican national team. And that's it. Because we learned this week, Jamaica did not qualify, which means Ian Frey won't be going to the World Cup. Unfortunate for him, and heart goes out to him, and that would have been a great opportunity. But that means Inter Miami can lock in. There's 4 players potentially going to the World Cup. And that means this offseason, or rather this World Cup break coming up in the summer, is going to be pretty much full roster, minus Lionel Messi, your goalkeeper, and Rodrigo de Paul. So you can now start planning what do you want your summer to look like, because now you have final understanding of who's going to be there. I think that's important.
Yeah, the mid-season break is going to be interesting to see how the coaching staff keeps some of these players fit. But 4 players, that's a healthy number for a young club like Inter Miami to send to the World Cup. 2 of them World Cup winners. I expect Rodrigo de Paul is going to be part of the squad. Whether he starts or not, that's a different question. Commiserations to Ian Frey. I was really rooting for him in Jamaica to go through. That would have been really fun, and he would have been an integral part of that team. Also, Venezuela didn't make it earlier in the qualification tournaments, we learned. So Segovia is not going to go either. So there were opportunities for that to be a higher number, but 4 is a good number. And we're now locked in, which means Inter Miami fans know which teams they want to follow if they don't have an international team. And we need to start planning the mid-season and see how the players who are going to be here, how we keep them fit, keep them fresh, whether we have behind closed doors games or what that looks like. So interesting times, man. The World Cup's almost here now.
Okay, tell me what's number 3.
Well, it's the week of Easter, and the resurrection is a story. But also for Inter Miami, we've kind of kind of experienced our own little resurrection. I know you are calling me out for turning my story on this, which is Luis Suarez may still have some life in him. We saw against Austin, he comes off the bench, scores that crucial equalizing goal against Austin in a moment when Tamami needed some spark of inspiration, and he brought that. He played sharp, he played well, had a really good goal, was potentially on for another one if he'd stayed on side. And at a time when Inter Miami is struggling for striker play, Luis Suarez shows how it's actually done. There might be a role for him on this team as a substitute. I don't know. I want to grab onto whatever I can from this little spark that I've seen against Austin, and maybe I'm blowing this out of proportion, and maybe he's not as fit and firing as he was in the 2024 season. But still, I think huge positive that Luis Suarez can come off the bench, stay sharp, and have an impact.
Listen, quality is quality and class is permanent. Whatever you think of Luis Suarez and his physical ability at this point, he's still a really talented player, and he's got decades of top flight experience from the neck up, and still understands how to impact a game. I've been considered a homer for Luis Suarez for long enough, so I don't need to sing his praises right now. But it is a weird situation to have a player that is very talented and seemingly not having a fit for him. And it seems like everyone's kind of okay with it. So it doesn't feel like anyone's feathers are being ruffled. So I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. If we get a bonus Suarez goal or get a couple extra points because Suarez comes off the bench and saves Miami, I'm more than happy to accept that. So nice to see he's still got something in him. And maybe the biggest talking point is that Suarez has a goal and the $15 million striker that we bought to replace him doesn't. But conversation for another day.
All right. What's number 4?
Number 4, I think we've now gotten enough of a sample size on David Ayala that I think we can start to make some interpretations on who he is as a player. He gets his first start next to Rodrigo de Paul, has gotten a start next to Yannick Bright, and we saw him with the sort of rotated squad against Charlotte. He's gotten enough minutes that I think we've seen who he is. And it's not that he's a bad player. I don't want to give that impression at all. Like, I think he's a nice young player, but I think what we've learned this week is that he's not going to be coming in and being a difference maker for this team, at least not on a consistent basis. There was some thought process that he could come in and replace Busquets, and I know we all sort of roll our eyes at that, and our expectations were not that he would come in and replace Busquets, but like the idea that you're going to get some facsimile from David Ayala, I think we can probably write off now. He's a nice young midfielder, and I think he will have good moments for Inter Miami this season. But he's not going to come in and save this midfield. He's not going to come in and be a transformative piece. And so now I think that means we can start looking at our midfield and rearranging it in ways that gets the best out of the players that we do have, and not hoping that a new signing or a new incoming transfer is going to sort of change everything for us. Maybe that will happen in the summer, but for the next 9 games, this is what we have. And I think we have quality pieces, but not pieces that are overwhelming. We have to work with what we've got.
And I don't necessarily see this as a negative, right? There were question marks about what David Ayala was as a player, just because we hadn't seen that much of him this off-season, in the preseason, and then leading up to the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. He had that injury, was not necessarily assimilated into the squad, and we stuck to the Yannick Bright, Rodrigo de Paul combination. Now we know what he looks like as a player through multiple games. The sample size, as you said, is slightly bigger. And he's a good, important depth piece, but the word that you use, transformative, I agree. I don't think David Ayala is going to revolutionize the way we play football as a club. And that's okay. That doesn't necessarily need to be the case. Maybe us as fans had a little bit more hope of, oh yeah, he will be fantastic. And listen, we may not have seen the best of him yet, and he might put in those performances from time to time where he actually takes the game by the scruff of its neck and changes how we play a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be drastically revolutionizing how we play, and that's fine. It adds depth to the midfield. I think he's going to be an important piece of the midfield. Will probably start a lot of games as well, but will not necessarily change games by himself. And that's where we're at. And that if that means that we need to maybe look at a better piece in the midfield, not replacing Ayala, but to add to it, then they can consider it. But right now, I think the best way to look at it is we understand what our midfield's about and proceed from there.
And, maybe again, it's not a negative on a David Ayala. It's just
No.
it is very hard to play this midfield duo if you're trying to play in Mascherano's system. And sure, Busquets and Rodrigo de Paul could get away with it because they're ultra talented. But like, if you don't have that ultra talent this year, then maybe the best way to manufacture more production in the midfield is to play an extra midfielder or something to that nature. I guess my point is now you can look at what you can do structurally to get more out of the midfield instead of just worrying about what personnel you have.
Number 5, bring us home.
Number 5 is less of a thing we know and more of a thing we are. Let me phrase it this way. I know I am worried about the possibility that potentially Berterame is on the outs. He hasn't started in any of the last 3 MLS games. He's played in every game this season. It does not look like it's improved his ability to connect with Lionel Messi, which is going to be the keystone to his ability to be successful at Inter Miami. It's seemingly gotten worse, less impactful, less effective, less of a connection. They don't even look like they're like trying to work with each other. It is strangely disconnected between the two players. And the fact that now we've seen, since Inter Miami was eliminated from the CONCACAF Champions Cup, Berterame has not been in the starting 11, makes me at least question, is Mascherano out on Berterame already? It's not something we know, but it's something we know to be looking out for moving forward. And I'll leave it at that. What do you think?
Yeah, we're cheating a little bit, right? It's like we've learned that we're worried about Berterame, yes. Which is fair. We can make the rules up as we go along. But our learning is that, yes, Berterame is in a very tough position. Some of the comments that Javi Mascherano has made apparently to the media suggest that Berterame is going to be here for the long run. But let me put it this way. Our understanding of the next 9 games before the Austin game, the next 10 games, was that this would be an opportunity where you can play a little bit more risky, allow some players who may not be playing particularly well to integrate into the team, because the consequences of the games are not as high. This is no longer us fighting for a trophy right now. It's about getting the players fit and ready. And if you're not playing Berterame in those games, then what are you doing, right? If you're benching him in these games, you're not only just not allowing him to integrate properly, but maybe even reducing his value. It's an interesting place to be as a player. I'm not even sure what's on his mind. I hope all it takes is that one moment for all of it to click together, and then it just explodes and the floodgates open. But right now, it looks like Javi Mascherano is going to bench Germán Berterame until he shows that spark of life. Maybe in the next game we see him and that changes this point entirely. But right now, we should keep an eye out for how Germán Berterame is being used, because I think this is the time for him to be allowed to make those mistakes. And if he doesn't work, then that gives us a clearer picture of what he is as a player. And then we can think about potential solutions. But if you don't play him right now, then you risk not integrating him into the team at all.
I think if we're not seeing him in the starting lineup this coming weekend, I think we're knowing more things. So
this becomes number 1 then.
Yeah, I think so. They spent $15 million on him, and he's played 8 games, and he's now out of favor. And we saw how much leash Javier Mascherano gave to Tadeo Allende last year. Like, Mascherano was not afraid to stick with his guy for way longer than we think is right. And so what does that mean for Berterame? I guess we will find out. But it is, I think, something to keep an eye on, especially when you think about how ambitious Inter Miami is as a club and how much they're willing to wheel and deal and what that could mean for the summer and for next year and all that stuff. So eyes are wide open to that situation right now. Okay, guys, thanks so much for joining. Let us know what you agree or disagree with in the comments section below. And as always, have a lovely day, and we'll see you guys next time. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this, and have a wonderful day.